Maple syrup, sweet, glowy goodness. Maple syrup, yum! Humans are biologically programmed to love sweet foods, which are of course high in energy. Sweet foods cause our brains to release dopamine, an addiction-linked neurotransmitter, so it's no surprise that sweet-flavoured foods are highly prized and enjoyable to eat. Maple syrup is made from the sap of maple trees, which contains about 1 to 4% sucrose when harvested. After it's been concentrated into maple syrup, the resulting product is approximately 60% sucrose, so it's pretty sweet. Sweet syrupy foods like maple syrup and honey are easy targets for food fraud perpetrators. This is partly due to their status as premium natural foods, and partly because they can be made more profitable if water and sugars are added. Their liquid form makes it easy to blend adulterants into the products. The adulterants themselves are cheap and easily available, and such adulteration is difficult for consumers to detect. It's no surprise then that honey and maple syrup are consistently reported to be in the top 10 most fraud-affected foods. In 2016, we reported on large-scale maple syrup theft in our Trello food fraud database. And I'll just read out 2 of the entries about that one. 20,000 litres of maple syrup has been stolen from a storage depot in Canada, which is the world's largest producer of maple syrup, from the 12th of August 2016. The stolen maple syrup could be sold through fraudulent channels and with compromised traceability. Purchasers of maple syrup should be vigilant for unauthorised sources of syrup. The criminals behind the theft of $18.7 million worth of maple syrup in Quebec in 2011 and 2012 have been convicted. The syrup was siphoned out of containers in a warehouse over a period of months and was then sold on the black market. And that news was dated the 12th of November 2016. I've got sources as well in the email. Canada stores maple syrup in huge quantities to protect the market from price shocks in years when production is higher or lower than usual. Check out the video below for a sneak peek inside a Canadian maple syrup storage facility. Oh my gosh, it's so clean. How do you know if your maple syrup is genuine? Well, there is no easy way for consumers to know whether the maple syrup they've purchased is genuine or not. However, food businesses can engage the services of analytical laboratories to check for adulteration. There are a number of different tests that can be done, including both targeted tests where you search for a specific known adulterant and non-targeted tests. One of the major challenges with food authenticity testing is the time that it takes to get a result from the lab. The time delay between obtaining a sample and getting a result limits the options a food business has if they suspect that a particular food might be affected by fraud. It's no wonder then that rapid test methods are hailed with great excitement when they're developed. A rapid test that uses the glow. A rapid test for maple syrup could be a game changer for the industry and its customers. Researchers from the University of Guelph think they might have found a method that is both fast and cost-effective. The method makes use of the fact that maple syrup glows when exposed to UV and visible light. The light emitted by specific compounds in genuine maple syrup can be captured and combined into a fluorescence fingerprint. Mathematical modelling turns the intensity and wavelength of peaks in the emitted light into a 3D map which reflects the composition of each sample. The 3D map or fingerprint of a test sample can be compared to the maps of samples known to be genuine. Test samples that are statistically different to a dataset of genuine samples are flagged as inauthentic. The University of Guelph researchers were able to detect the presence of added adulterants in deliberately adulterated samples with a success rate of 70 to 100%. The technology is still being developed. As with all fingerprinting methods, the success of the technology lies in having a robust database of genuine samples. The fingerprint of every genuine syrup sample is slightly different, depending on the environmental conditions during the growing season, the geographical origin of the syrups, and perhaps even the individual tree. This means that a wide variety of samples is needed to create statistical models that will provide accurate results for maple syrups from a wide variety of locations and across different growing seasons. Robust databases for fingerprint methods are critical. It's heartening to learn that the people working on this method acknowledge the need to create a bigger data set. We wouldn't want them to face the same accusations as have been levelled at famous fingerprint method used for honey authentication. The NMR nuclear magnetic resonance authenticity test for honey has been criticised by Australian experts because it relies on a database of genuine honeys which might not include Australian samples. It's a proprietary database owned by a private company, and there's no public information about how many Australian samples were included in the statistical modelling, if any. A result of this possible database deficiency is that genuine Australian honey could produce a fingerprint that is so different from the honeys used to create the database that it could be flagged by the statistical model as not typical of authentic honey, a result that is usually interpreted as evidence of fraudulent adulteration or dilution. Questions about the NMR honey dataset have been raised separately in both Australia and the United Kingdom after their NMR method found unexpectedly high levels of fraud in honey in both those countries. And this article was inspired by a press release from the University of Guelph about their work on maple syrup fraud detection and a write-up of their work in the online magazine, The Conversation. And definitely go and check out The Conversation's piece for a picture of the glowing syrup, which I can't share here for copyright reasons. It's a pretty cool picture.